Good morning, everyone. Me and my group will be presenting on unique features of the stingray. So first off, what are rays? Stingrays are groups of fishes called batoids and are closely related to sharks. Stingrays' bodies are mostly made out of cartilage, which means that they are in the class Chondrichthyes, but in the subclass Elasmobranchs. Rays' scientific order is called Rajiformes. One of the most important and noticeable parts of the stingray is their barb, and it is located at the tail end, or what we call the caudal region. The barb functions for self-defense against predators. So how did rays become stingrays? Sharks and rays share a common ancestor that is said to have lived over 400 million years ago. This ancestor was part of the group called Cladocythians, which were really early cartilaginous fish. These early fish had skeletons made out of cartilage, a trait that sharks and rays inherited and still possess to this day. Over time, sharks evolved streamlined bodies for predation since they are mainly a predation species, while rays adapted flat bodies for bottom dwelling and camouflage since they are more of a prey species. The reason why we know this is because of a diagram called a phylogenetic tree, where we are able to see where and what common ancestor they derived from. So what is highlighted in orange is where we're going to be focusing on, and you see in the diagram that sharks and rays are closely related. So right here in this diagram, you see that sharks and rays are closely related, and this around this region is where the common ancestor would be. So now let's get into details of what the barb really is. The barb of a stingray is a modified dermal denticle. So what is a modified dermal denticle? A dermal denticle is modified tiny teeth like scales that are embedded on the skin. A stingray skin is covered in these tiny teeth structures. These teeth-like structures are then elongated to create a barb. This also gives stingrays their sandpaper texture. The function of these scales when they are not modified into barbs is to help them swim better and protection against predators. A fun fact is that dermal denticles are made up of the same material as our teeth, which is something that I found is interesting. So you see, if in this first picture, actually a fossilized dermal denticle. And so this fossilized dermal denticle is from a large ray fish, as like the rough tail stingray, which can grow up to 7 feet across from wingtip to wingtip and 14 feet long, including the tail. It can weigh as much as 660 pounds. So, fun fact, stingrays are able to regrow their barbs when they lose it from protecting itself or when they do their seasonal shed. Sometimes there can be two barbs growing at once due to one being shed and one growing. Barbs grow immediately after it's lost or about to shed off. So does losing their barb hurt? No. Oftentimes in aquariums where stingrays are held, they clip off their barbs and it does not hurt because their barb has no nerves in them and they're in fact just like our fingernails.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the different types of barbs. In the first illustration are different types of barbs from different rays families. First, let's start off with the Gumeridae family. These are the butterfly rays. So they typically don't have a traditional barb like a stingray does, in which they have a venomous spine. Instead, they have a small, sharp, and bony structure, typically a serrated spine that can be found on the pectoral fin. They also have two ventral grooves that are lined with granular cells, which are venom secreting. Then we have the Maliobatidae family. These consist of eagle and bat rays. Their barbs are venomous and also composed of modified dermal dactyls. The tip of the barb allows them to grip and remain embedded into the flesh when it stings. Then we have the Dasytidae family. These consist of the whip's tail stingrays. They have a serrated spine like the butterfly rays that is located on the tail near the base. And they have modified placoid scales and contain grooves with venom-producing secretory cells. They can whip their tail and to inflict painful wounds on potential attackers. And lastly, we have the Urolopidae family, which are known as the stingrays. Their barbs are a modified dermal dactyl located on the tail. It's primarily a venom delivery system capable of inflicting painful wounds, though fatalities are rare. Their barb is typically covered in a thin layer of skin and mucus, and are specialized cells in their layer which transfers venom upon striking. Now we are going to talk about rays without a barb. So manta rays are the only rays that lack a barb, especially a venomous barb. Since they don't have a barb, they instead have a slender tail that doesn't really help them with any defense mechanisms. Instead, they mostly rely on their speed and agility. They use their large pectoral fins to maneuver and also rely on their size to escape from predators. Next, we're going to talk about the nervous system and the sensory organs. Okay, so let's start off with the ampullae of Lorenzini. In the diagram on the left, it shows where the ampullae is located in the ray fin. So the ampullae of Lorenzini are specialized electroreceptors that detect weak electric fields in the water. These organs are found in pores around the head and on the underside, allowing rays to sense the tiny electric fields produced by other organisms, enabling them to hunt prey and navigate their environment. Next, we have the image on the right. This illustrates the lateral line system, which consists of the spine and the tail of the rays. It is a complex mechanosensory system that helps them detect prey and navigate through their environments as well. It consists of a network of channels and neural mats that sense water movements and vibrations. This system is particularly important for benthic feeding, so it helps them locate buried prey. And lastly, we have the touch and pain reception. They have the ability to experience pain and perceive touch. Studies indicate that they have a nervous system and sensory receptors, suggesting they can feel pain and other sensations like touch. Research also shows that rays inhibit behavioral and physiological response to potential stimuli, furthering their ability to experience pain.
So now we're going to do an interactive activity called an RAT, which is a readiness assurance test. An RAT is something that we do in this anatomy class to test our knowledge about what we've just learned. And so our group prepared 3 questions and you can put your knowledge to the test. And so our first question is, what type of ray doesn't have a barb? If you said manta ray, then you are correct. Question 2, what other species are rays closely related to? If you said shark, then you are correct. And lastly, are true or false, does a stingray losing its barb cause pain? If you said false, then you are correct. And that is the end of our presentation. Thank you.